But okay, great. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everybody to the Seven Hills Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for November 11th, 2020. And sorry, Spencer, I forgot to tell you, if you can please begin the audio recording.
We're good.
Okay, great. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the Seven Hills Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for November 11th, 2020. Terry, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Browitz?
Here.
Mr. Bruns?
Here.
Mr. Aiken?
Here.
Mr. Madej?
Here.
Mr. Stefanini?
Here. Okay, thank you. Yep, Chris Bruns speaking again. Yes, we have all of our board members in attendance tonight. I'd like to recognize some of the following individuals on the line. We have Christine Tobin, who is our legal counsel and here in an advisory position to the board. We also have Building Commissioner Jeff Grassi, also as an advisor to the board. And then finally, we have Councilman Tom Stitsky. He is our liaison to City Council. So the Zoning Board of Appeals is comprised of 5 members with diverse professional backgrounds representing all 4 wards of Seven Hills. We're all residents of Seven Hills. All of our meetings are public, and we've very recently been holding these meetings via teleconference. And these are live stream broadcasted on YouTube and are recorded for record. The minutes from these meetings are created and submitted to council for review and for permanent record. We consider all information and testimony presented during the meeting to create a harmony with the original purpose and intent of the zoning code and the variance requests brought before us so that public health, safety, morals, and general welfare may be secured and substantial justice done to all parties involved. Anything that is voted on tonight is not formally approved until it passes through City Council for final approval. City Council holds the power to approve, modify, amend, or reverse any of the decisions of this board. And please contact City Council to obtain the date of the next council meeting if you're unsure, and to verify that your variance request is on the meeting's agenda. I do believe the next planned City Council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 24th. Councilman Snitsky, is that accurate?
That's correct, Mr. Bruns. This is Councilman Snitsky.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, applicants, critical to wait until the City Council meeting for the final evaluation and final voting of your variance request. All applicants have 1 year from the date that the variance is approved by City Council to obtain a building permit. After that year, the variance is void, and you'll need to start the process over again. Okay, so board members, have you read the meeting minutes of our meeting from Wednesday, October 14th, 2020? And if so, do you have any corrections? And if no corrections are needed, may I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick.
This is Rick Aiken. I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, and a second, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dale Stefanini. Approve. Second it.
Okay, yes, motion's been made to approve the meeting minutes from Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Browitz?
Yes.
Mr. Madej?
Yes.
Mr. Stefanini?
Yes.
Okay, yes, those meeting minutes have been approved. Okay, I'd like to move on to the new business portion of the meeting tonight. So we do have 3 variance requests that have been brought before the board this evening. I'll go ahead and read the variances and some of the relevant ordinances on our agenda, and then after that we'll go through each of the variance requests individually. So during each individual applicant's or request hearing, each of the applicant will be asked to present their variance request to the board and then answer any resulting questions. After that, then we'll read into record any written correspondence submitted by the public. Then for each request, the public will have the opportunity to call into the meeting to voice any opinions. So for all the applicants and attendees calling in, when you do join, please announce your name, and then if you can please give us your full name and address prior to to speaking for the first time. And then subsequently, if you can give us your name prior to speaking, just so that it's clear who is speaking, and for the benefit, obviously, if anybody joining by phone. And yeah, if you can please stay on mute, obviously, while others are speaking to minimize background noise. And then really once all the matters have been presented and all voices heard, the board will review the various factors and offer opinions on each of those factors, and then potentially vote on each of the variance requests. Okay, so our first variance, and again, I'll just review all of our requests now, and then we'll go through one by one after I do that. So we have a variance request from Denise Skiba of 6218, requesting a 4-foot variance to ordinance number 110602, driveway construction, to allow the proposed replacement driveway extension to be 1 foot off of the side yard lot line. The ordinance currently requires driveways to be no closer than 5 feet to any yard or to any lot line, and also driveways that are closer than 10 feet to a lot line to have a tapered V or a raised curb. After we hear that request and consider that one, we will hear from Paul and Kathy Sambor of 112 Ridgewood Drive, who have requested a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 99702A, construction regulations to allow the existing 2-foot lattice topping attached to the existing 6-foot high fence to remain for a total fence height of 8 feet. The ordinance states that fences cannot exceed 6 feet above the average grade of the lots on both sides of a fence. And then finally, we have a request from Stan and Sharon Labuda of 6239 Crossview Road, who has requested a variance to ordinance number 96302B, storage sheds to allow the placement of a non-fire rated structure 3 foot 6 inches from the side lot line and 2 foot 8 inches from a habitable dwelling. The ordinance states that the structure be at a minimum of 5 feet from the side yard lot line and a minimum of 10 feet from any habitable dwelling, or be fire rated. Okay, so before we move on to that, I guess for any individuals that are in attendance, certainly the applicants that are have joined by the GoToMeeting or by phone, we'd like to swear you in right now, and then subsequently, after we hear each variance request, we'll swear in any new attendees that join in later. But yeah, so I'd like to swear in again all of the applicants or anybody joining by phone who has an interest in these variances who would expect to make those statements. Okay. So as a matter of protocol, anyone who intends to make a statement concerning these variances tonight must swear and affirm that they will be making truthful statements. So if all of the attendees could please raise your right hand. All the individuals on video and by phone, I'll trust that you're raising your right hand, and affirm that you'll be making truthful statements, and affirm the following statement. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that you give in the matter being heard before this Zoning Board of Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you may answer to God? If so, then please answer yes.
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 Okay, great. Thank you very much. You may lower your hand. Okay, well, let's first start off with the request again from Denise Skiba of 6218 St. Joseph Drive. So, applicant, I'll give the floor to you. If you can just quickly walk through your proposal and really anything else that you care to share with the board at this time.
Okay, hello there. My name's Jim Hudak. Denise is my fiance, and I live at the address as well. What we would like to...
Good. And, sorry, just for record, can you give us your full address?
Sure, the address is 6218 St. Joseph Drive, Seven Hills.
Okay, great.
What we would like to do is add a third lane to the driveway. Our driveway is pretty small, and we have a smaller two-car garage. We now have a son back home with us from Chicago who was on site due to COVID, has moved back. So we have 3 cars here permanently and potentially a 4th. So we're looking to add that additional lane on the south side of the driveway. We are also going to extend to the north side, which does not affect the variance. We will be replacing 2 blocks of sidewalk on the south side of the driveway as well. That's it. It kind of leaves us 1 foot off the property line. I've talked to the neighbor right next door, Mark, and, you know, he seemed fine with it, so we thought we'd proceed with the permit application.
Okay, great. Okay, and can you talk about, is your property above or at a higher elevation than the neighbor that you share the property line in question, or are you at a lower elevation than that?
I am at a lower elevation.
Okay. Okay, good. And when you bought your property, I guess, were you aware of some of the zoning ordinances around driveway placement?
Yeah, I've been in construction for 30 years, actually. I'm a plumber by trade, so I do know there are rules and regulations with driveways and property lines, yes. But, again, due to circumstances beyond our control, it would just really make life a lot easier having that 3rd lane.
Okay, understood. Okay, I guess any other board members? Do you have any other questions?
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
this is Rick Aiken. Just want to confirm from the applicant that with it being so close that a V or a curbing will be installed to direct any flow. I know you said you're downstream, but to just be sure that direct any stormwater flow away from your property, away from your neighbor's property and down your driveway. So would you, per code, would you be willing to do that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have hired Mario Construction. He actually did a driveway very similar to what we're looking to have done on our street, and seemed to do exceptional work and really nice pitching of all of his elevations and everything. So, are you requesting a curb, or you just want to make sure that that neighbor's yard drains properly into my driveway? Because if I put up a curb of some type, he's going to hold the water.
Right. Mr. Grassi can weigh in here, but it's either a V or a curb, I believe, is per code if it's closer than 5 or 10 feet to your neighbor's property. So I'll defer to Mr. Grassi if he has anything to add.
The building commissioner Grassi, thank you. Yes, yeah, the curb or the V, as long as we're directing the water towards the center of the driveway, so it exits out to the street. Yeah, so a V or a curb, either or.
Okay. Yep, that's clear. Thank you. So we will go with the V.
Okay, yeah, and Christopher speaking, yeah, we will, we'll add that language, I believe, to the motion, that you would agree to do, yeah, either the V shape or a curb.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from any of the board members?
Chris, this is Gary Barwant.
Yeah, Gary?
Yeah, you know what? I have no problem, especially since the neighbor right next door that this is going to affect is not complaining and doesn't have a problem with it. I could see why the customer wants to do that, so I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Good. Any final thoughts or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, building commissioner Grassi again.
Yes, Leah, go ahead.
Yeah, in your motion language, I think you should. It should be the whole length of that side of the driveway. Either have the pitch or the curb.
Okay, indeed. Yeah, we will. We'll likely just read it directly from the ordinance. But understood.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes.
Chris.
This is Christine Tobin. The suggested motion language, which I believe all the board members have, makes reference to applicant complying with ordinance number 1106.02D, which should cover it.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Any final thoughts or questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday. My only
Yes, right.
thought or comment is the driveway is a narrow driveway, so I think the request is very appropriate. And as another board member mentioned, the neighbor being okay with it is obviously important.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. I think I'd like to open it up for any public, I guess, questions or public commentary. Okay. So anybody listening on obviously the YouTube channel right now, you can dial in using your phone to answer or to pose any questions or offer any comments. You can use the number 571-317-3122. Again, 571-317-3122, and use access code 419-946-605. Again, 419-946-605. So I'll pause a few moments to allow any interested parties to call in. Thank you. Okay, Chris Brunn speaking again. Have there been any individuals from the public that have recently called in to speak on this variance? Okay, I will take that as a no. Okay, so I'll move on and read a few factors, and then just give some of my thoughts, but I'll certainly encourage my fellow zoning board members to offer any thoughts, again, as I read through these factors. Okay, so if an appeal is filed, factors that may be taken into consideration by the Board of Zoning Appeals for granting a variance included but are not limited to the following: whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. The applicant did state that he would get enhanced use of the property with additional cars, additional vehicles needed. So I think we're definitely enhancing certainly the usability of the property, and possibly the value as well. So solid usability and value currently, but certainly enhanced with this widened driveway. If the variance is substantial, a large extent of size, area, or distance, I would consider this reasonable. Certainly, we'll talk about how the water is being controlled, but I wouldn't consider it a substantial, or at least not a detrimental amount of variance size requested here. So I don't have a concern with the size that's being considered here. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. I don't think there'd be a detriment certainly to the overall neighborhood. I do believe there are several houses, in that neighborhood who have similarly styled driveways, and the applicant did state that the neighbor was okay with this, so I don't feel there's a detriment. Talked about how the water would be controlled, so yeah, I don't see any negative impacts on the neighbor at all here. If the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, safety forces, water, sewage, or garbage, I don't think any of that is really relevant here. Again, the water would be properly managed with the Ving or a curbing needed, so I don't have a concern with that as well. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? The applicant did state that they were aware of the ordinances, but I do think the applicant's situation has likely changed. Certainly 30 years ago when the property was purchased, certainly things have changed for the applicant. So I think they were knowledgeable, but I don't think that's a particularly relevant factor in this case, since the applicant has held the property for so long. whether the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance. I don't really see any other options here, certainly to give the applicant the amount of useful driveway space that they have requested. So I do think this is the only option for the applicant right now. And then finally, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. I do think we are upholding the overall spirit behind the ordinance, certainly granting justice to the applicants. And again, I don't think any other parties are made any worse off. So I think this is a net improvement to the applicant's property, certainly usability and even aesthetics as well, some of the other work being done on that driveway and some of the other pads. So I'm supportive of this myself. Any other zoning board members have any opinions?
Chris, pardon me, this is Jim. I'd like to clarify your last statement. We have not been here 30 years. We've been here a little over 5 years. Well, what I said was I have 30 years in construction.
Okay.
So I have built some new houses and I am familiar with the restrictions. Okay. However, our situation has changed in the last 5 years, clearly. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim, and my apologies for that mistake. But I still don't think that's a negative factor in this case. So agreed that your personal situation has changed in those 5 years. But thanks for that correction. Okay, good. Any other final thoughts from board members?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick.
This is Rick Aiken. I drove by the property a couple times, looked at it. It's going to fit in well with the neighborhood. It's not going to be something out of the ordinary for that portion of Seven Hills. Without the neighbor being an objection to it, I don't see any reason why this shouldn't go through. I agree with you that it will enhance the property, any new driveway, any improvements anyone can invest into their property is to the benefit of Seven Hills in general. So, I don't see a reason why I wouldn't be for this. So, but those are my thoughts.
Good. Thanks, Rick. Okay. Any final thoughts? Okay, great. Well, I guess, do we have, can I have a motion to vote on this variance request?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Gary.
Yes, Gary?
Yeah, I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner Denise Skiba, 6218 St. Joseph Drive, a variance to ordinance number 1106.02C to allow the replacement of the existing driveway and extension to that driveway that will be 1 foot off the southerly side yard lot line as shown on the drawing submitted with the application, provided the applicant complies with ordinance number 1106.02D.
Okay. Yep, motion's been made. Second, please.
This is Ryan Midday. I second it.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Yes, so motion's been made that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner Denise Skiba, 6218 St. Joseph Drive, a variance to ordinance number 1106.02C to allow the replacement of the existing driveway and extension to that driveway that will be 1 foot off the southerly side yard lot line as shown on the drawing submitted with the application, provided the applicant complies with ordinance number 1106.02D. Okay, Terry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Stefanini?
Yes.
Mr. Madej?
Yes.
Mr. Brund?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Borowitz?
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yep, so the board has voted to grant that variance request. Again, applicant, very important that you wait until City Council votes on this as well at the end of the month.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay, you too. Okay, thank you. And again, you're welcome to stay on the call if you like to, applicant, or obviously you're welcome to drop off. Okay, so we'll move on to the next variance request for the evening. This is from a Paul and Kathy Sambor of 112 Ridgeview Drive, regarding the 8-foot fence. Okay, so do we have, yes, I think we do have Chris Sambor on the call today.
Hi, this is Chris Sambor. I have it connected for my father and mother to talk.
Great. Okay, yep.
Hello, this is Paul Sambor.
Welcome to the call, Chris. Yeah, and if you could please give us your full name and your address, and then the floor is yours to go over the variance request.
Okay, well, this is Paul Sambor, 112 Ridgeview Drive. And the request is to heighten the 6-foot fence. And the reason I need that is the newly added lights on Dairy Queen in the ATT building. It's like staring into 2 high-beam cars in my backyard. If I can go with the 2-foot variance on the fence, I can block the lighting that is on the building at least. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, obviously the 6-foot fence is there. We already have a 2-foot fence installed. So we're just bringing that fence, or you're requesting to bring that fence into compliance.
Correct. Actually, I do. I can't remember what I wrote on here. I have to add to what's up there. I mean, it wasn't completed. That was put up in desperation, to be quite honest with you, to block the lighting when it appeared.
Okay. Okay, good. Anything further you care to ask?
Well, if they have questions for me, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I guess when you purchased the property, were you aware of any of the ordinances around fences?
Well, yes, actually, I had. When that fence was put up, it was put up with the proper, put up properly, through the ordinances.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm seeing was that put up in, I saw somewhere in 1986 was when that original, I think your original application was from?
Something like that.
Okay. Okay, any questions from any of the other board members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dale.
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Dale.
I know the residents, so I won't be voting on this.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay.
This is Gary.
Yeah, Gary?
Do I understand that the residents said it still has to be, he has to do more work on the fence?
Yeah, that was what I heard. Applicant, do you care to share any more about, I guess, maybe what's already been done and then what you would still like to do?
Well, correct. The lattice that is up there, like I said, I had to put it up. I actually put it up in a hurry when the lights showed up. I had to protect myself here because the lights were blinding me. Yes, I thought I put it in the application. I want to add more length, and of course, it's going to be new lattice and a little bit better design than what I put up there because that was put in desperation. These lights just appeared out of nowhere and they were blinding me.
Right. Was that fairly recently, or has that been some time ago?
No, actually, it's been already 3 years ago, I believe.
3 years, okay.
But those were, added. It just appeared.
Okay, understood.
I swear it's theirs.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
To the resident, any problems with the neighbors, increasing the height of the fence?
Well, technically, where the fence is going to be, it's vacant land. Mm-hmm. The broad view.
Yeah, okay. I'll just make a comment. The lights from the Dairy Queen and that shopping area, they are pretty bright. So I guess I sympathize with the residents.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay, I don't know. Terry may know this. Do we know who owns that property? I guess that, the applicant said it's vacant. Is that truly, I would imagine that has an owner.
Those two empty lots are owned by the person that owns the lot that Dairy Queen and AT&T is on.
Okay. Okay, and probably purely speculative at this point. Obviously, that I think Dairy Queen does have intent to move from their current facility.
Correct.
But I guess it's anyone's guess on what would happen with that current property and those two vacant properties after Dairy Queen vacates.
Correct.
Okay. Understood. Okay. Any further questions?
This is Councilman Snitsky. I have a question for Jeff Grassi.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Grassi, do we not have ordinances against light pollution? And maybe, is there something that maybe we should do in the interim here to see if we can mitigate some of that light? I don't know what has or hasn't been done. I do know we have ordinances about directional lighting and light emissions off of commercial property.
Yes, Councilman Snitsky, thank you. This is Building Commissioner Grassi. Yeah, when this first, the situation with the light pollution came up, I looked into the property file, found that it had been going on for quite a long time. I made arrangements with Mr. Sambord and his son to meet out at the property one night to take a look at the light intrusion and the light pollution. To me, there was clearly light pollution coming from these three particular lights up there on the building. The ones he's referencing on the building itself, they were changed out to the LED style, so they would be a little bit brighter than the incandescent lamps that were on the wall packs originally. That's why when he was saying that they went away and came back, and they were changed out with LEDs. But these particular pole lights, I reached out to the power company. First Energy got in touch with their lighting division, explained the situation to them. They ironically were familiar with the situation because the engineer I was speaking with had been involved with this light issue back in a few years back when he was just an intern with the power company. But they won't. I couldn't ask for any kind of a request for that those lights to be shielded, but I did get the property owner, the tenant, Dairy Queen, and the power company all coordinated together to try to come up with a solution to either shield them, remove them, alter the ones that are there, change them. So I have addressed that situation, Councilman, and so hopefully that answers your question a little bit. It was a little lengthy, but yes, I have put some time into trying to correct this light pollution issue.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Grassi. But what you're telling me, I think, is that the situation is in the discussion phase. It hasn't been amended yet or fixed, correct?
Like I said, I can only facilitate them coordinating some sort of a solution. So they have no duty to report back to me if they've come up with a solution, when they're going to implement that solution. I obviously drive by because I live around here, so I drive by in the neighborhood to see the progress. So that's what I know.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to, because my concern is that if and when we end up with a new property owner there, a new commercial business, that they continue with this light intrusion issue. So I'd like to at least get it addressed in the interim, I don't see any reason why Mr. Sambor shouldn't be able to not have beacons in his yard, but at this, and be able to put these fences up as he sees fit. But in the interim, I think we also ought to go after the property owner, the commercial property owner, and CEI, and have them do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Councilman. Good.
Mr. Chairman? Yes,
yes,
Mr. Chairman, Christine Tobin, may I just add a comment? With regard to, I am not sure whether or not the Planning Commission has addressed the lighting on this property in the recent past or not, but certainly under one of our code sections, 941, if there's any change to an approved site or design plan, I know the building commissioner will confirm this. The matter does need to go before the Planning Commission. So that should be addressed, certainly, as we go forward with any new building occupants or if they change the building, et cetera. And I guess, I had a question for building commissioner. Are you aware whether or not this went to Planning Commission when you looked through your file on this matter?
I was at the Planning Commission meeting when they were discussing background of Dairy Queen in the past. And from what I gathered, because I've only been in Ohio since about 2000, and apparently this Dairy Queen has been there quite a long time. And so yeah, once it changes, it won't be there won't be a drive-through there anymore. The new development of that property, if they did develop it, would go through planning. So you'd have a new photometric for the lighting design, and that would all be taken into account. So yes, that would be addressed with the future tenants.
Christine Tobin again. I'm just wondering, Mr. Commissioner, if this matter can be addressed with the current occupants or owner based on a previous Planning Commission review of lighting. Not 40 years ago, but something that may have changed where they wanted to add lighting or change the lighting. I'm just wondering if we do have something like that, where that can also be a mechanism to address the problem and provide some correction for the resident.
Building Commissioner Grassi again. Yeah, I think in what I have done and what's transpiring now, I think is, the correct steps and the right steps in the right direction. That's why I acted out that way to try to resolve this light intrusion problem.
Okay, thank you. Guess any final thoughts from board members or others on the line?
Okay, this is Paul Sambor again.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I would just like to say is that, to be honest with you, I do believe those lights were in conflict with the ordinances. I don't know why they were allowed to be put up there. They're devastating lights. And there's actually two sets of lights. The lights on the building, and there's lights on Broadview Road utility poles. I can't block those out with a 2-foot fence, but at least I can block the lights on the building out with the 2-foot extra on my fence. But yes, in the future here, I think we have to be very careful on these ordinances here, because for some reason, this seemed to escape it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, understood, sir. Thank you. Okay, I think I'd like to move on to open up the floor to anybody who'd like to call in from YouTube. Again, if you would like to make comments or ask questions, you can reach the meeting by calling in to 571-317-3122. Again, 571-317-3122. Access code 419-946-605. Again, 419-946-605. Okay, and I'll pause momentarily to allow anyone to call in. Okay, has anybody called in recently to ask a question or offer comment? Okay, Chris Brunn speaking, and I'll take that as a no. Okay, so I'd like to move forward and read through some factors and give some opinions. So first, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. I do understand the applicant's plight here, and I've driven by the property myself and know that property, and I'm sure it is his quality of life is significantly detracted in the backyard and maybe in the house too as a result of these lights. So I think certainly the peaceful enjoyment and usability of the property would be significantly enhanced by this addition. So I think that the applicant is very within his rights and very justified in this request. If the variance is substantial, I don't think it's a substantial amount of size. It's just 2 extra feet. I think, again, quite reasonable considering some of the challenges the applicant has here. Also, that fence is tucked back from Broadview, so there's some buffer from the properties in front. So I think when considering the amount of light coming in, asking for 2 feet is quite reasonable in my mind. So I don't have a concern with the size. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties suffer a substantial detriment. I don't think there'd be any detriment here, nor detriment to the neighborhood, nor property owners. So I don't have a concern with that one really at all. If the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, safety forces, water, sewage, or garbage collection, I still think there'll be, accessible ways to get into the back of that property if needed, and adding 2 feet on the fence I don't think would impact delivery of anything. So I don't have a concern with that at all. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? I also don't think that's relevant because I think the lighting situation, as the applicant stated, has changed recently, and or at least in the last few years, and for the worse. So again, I think the applicant is certainly well justified there. Whether the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance, I do think there's a lot of merits in further analyzing the current lighting and if that is in compliance or not. So I do think that should be undertaken. But I think what the applicant is asking for here is certainly quite reasonable. And it maybe would take some time to establish your parameters around the current lighting. So I don't see an issue with the applicant taking this action now to at least maximize some peaceful enjoyment of his property, while the other avenues are pursued with the current property. And quite frankly, there could be changes with that current property too. So again, I think the applicant is well justified in his request here. And finally, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Yes, I do think we are upholding the spirit. Again, I think we only have 2 feet that's being asked here. So I think it's quite reasonable. And I think the spirit is withheld. So those are just my thoughts. Any other board members care to share any opinions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
This is Rick Aiken. Yeah, I agree. I was out. Everyone drives by that property a lot. On a main thoroughfare right next to a very popular ice cream place, Dairy Queen. I was out there looking at it, and yeah, there is some. I can understand the need for the 2-foot extension for the light intrusion from the property, neighboring property. So no neighbor's going to be affected. It's going to be fronted to the road and the empty commercial lot. Not going to affect the neighborhood. It's going to help the landowner hopefully deal a little bit with with the light situation. So yeah, I think this makes sense all around. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Anyone else?
Chris, it's
yeah.
Gary Marwa.
Go ahead, Gary.
I don't see a problem. I think it's very reasonable that he's asking for this, especially since part of it's already up. There is no neighbor to the west because it's vacant, and I don't see a problem with it at all. I think he's doing the right thing by trying to get rid of some of that light, so I have no problem.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. Good. Brian, any thoughts?
This is Ryan. No, I can concur with what all three of you said, and I'm pleased to hear that the efforts the commissioners put into it. The councilman's obviously very concerned and interested in the matter currently and going forward. So I think it's a good thing that it's being looked at.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, well, with that in mind, I guess may I have a motion on this variance request?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick.
This is Rick again. Sorry, I lost my place. I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner, Paul Sambor, 112 Ridgeview Road, a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 997.02A to keep the existing 2-foot lattice topping attached above the existing 6-foot fence. The fence will be no more than 8 feet high, as described in the information submitted by the applicant.
Okay, and a second, please.
This is Ryan Mid. Second the motion.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, this is Kristen Tobin. I did hear the applicant, Mr. Sambor, say that he has installed the 2-foot lattice along a portion of the 6-foot existing fence, but he would like to complete adding an additional 2 feet above the entire length of his existing 6 foot. Is that correct?
Okay, this is Paul Sambor again. Actually, I don't know if I put it in my application here or not. I think it was about 150 or 160 feet. Yes, it would go back farther because there's lights on the back of Dairy Queen that were added also. And to be honest with you, maybe it'd help with the speaker.
So this is Christine Tobin. So what you're saying is that there's additional 2 feet of lattice that you'd like to add to an existing 6-foot fence that is not already in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And the reason I'm asking that is Mr. Chairman and the board, our proposed motion language followed his application, which indicated to us that the 2 foot was already in place along the existing fence. So we used the word existing 2-foot lattice. So we need to remove that word from the motion, existing 2-foot lattice, because he's actually wanting to keep a section of existing 2 feet and then add additional. So if you just remove the word existing and excuse me, let me back up. If you put to keep the existing 2-foot lattice and you replace that with to add 2-foot lattice topping, to add 2-foot lattice topping.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, we want to keep the existing and then also add additional 2-foot lattice. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can combine it all with the word add, but if you want to separate it, that would be fine too.
Okay.
If he doesn't have a permit or permission to add or to keep existing, so either way is fine, but I just wanted to make sure that if we left it the way it read, he wouldn't have an ability to add any additional lattice.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, Rick, do you want to, I guess, to repeat that that motion?
Yeah, I'll just use as Ms. Tobin suggested, just to add 2-foot lattice to the top of the attached. That should cover future and existing 2-foot lattice, okay. I would think. So.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, Mr. Chair, this is Rick Aiken. I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner, Paul Sambor, 112 Ridgeview Road, a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 997.02A to add 2-foot lattice topping attached above the existing 6-foot fence. Fence will be no more than 8 feet high as described in the information submitted by the applicant.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Yep. Motion's been made. Second, please.
This is Ryan Midday. I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Motion's been seconded. Motion's been made that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner, Paul Sambor, 112 Ridgeview Road, a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 99702A to add 2 feet lattice topping attached above the existing 6-foot fence. Fence will be no more than 8 foot high, as described in the information submitted by the applicant. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Madey?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Borowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes. Okay, yes, the board has voted to grant that variance, but again, applicant, please wait until the official vote by City Council at the end of the month. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to move on to the final variance request for the evening. Again, this has been brought forth from Stan and Sharon Labuda from 6239 Cross Street Road regarding a storage shed. Are the applicants on the call tonight?
I am. This is Stan Labuda, 6239 Crosby Road.
Okay, Stan. The floor is yours. If you please walk us through your variance request. Thank you.
Sure. Me and my wife Sharon have lived here for 27 years, and we've done some improvements to the property over the years. One of which was a in-ground swimming pool that was installed approximately 5 years ago. With the size of the family that we have, my wife having 12 brothers and sisters, and my son being the 23rd grandchild, on that side of the family, we tend to have large family gatherings outside of this COVID stuff. Also, being a coach of baseball, we tend to have baseball parties throughout the summer. So one of the issues we ran into over the years was with the pool was an area for people to drop their shoes and bags and towels, and as well as an area for the kids to change. So we decided to build this storage shed with the intent of 2 purposes: for the summer months, for it to be empty and a place for people to be able to change their clothes, and an area to drop their shoes and their bags and coolers or whatever they may have. And in the winter months, to be able to store some of the the pool floats and stuff that sits out around the pool. No intention of ever putting any kind of chemicals, pool chemicals, or anything like that inside there. The building is not intended and will not have electricity ran to it. Again, it's strictly just for a changing area and for winter storage. I did get permission from the immediate neighbor on the south side of me, Mr. Sauenheimer. He unfortunately has passed away, and his son Matt was going to attend this meeting this evening and wasn't able to, but he did email me a letter that I can provide to the board with his permission and of his father's wishes, to approve the building. I was, at the time of building this, I was not aware of an ordinance regarding how close it could be to my own home. I was aware when we decided to start the structure, the placement of the building was done based on the way the concrete was pitched from the swimming pool to not flood my neighbor's yard. The runoff, the way our properties kind of fall off, our houses sit at a little higher elevation, and the properties run, they start to tend to fall off as you start heading towards the east, towards the woods. So the placement of this building was determined based on the fact that to move it down any further from my home, it kind of sat in a lower elevation area, which tends to always be wet. And my concern was with heaving, over the winters, with the concrete for, the foundation as well as the posts, lifting or heaving. So it was decided at that time to put it where we placed it, not thinking that, that I was in violation of the closeness or relativity to my own home.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and we did receive the letter from Matt Sauerheimer, and we'll read that into minutes here shortly. Okay, good. Anything further to add?
I guess just, that, again, I want to just reiterate, the building's been, I've gone to great lengths to ensure that it's essentially over-engineered probably for what it is. I do understand the concerns of lift and, all the proper hurricane clips and such will be installed. Obviously, I've stopped complete construction on the building, once we got the cease and assist letter. But I do have full intention of, ensuring that the building, more than meets code. And again, just to reiterate, I have no intention of having electricity ran in the building or any kind of storage of any chemicals or, any kind of flammable materials.
Okay. Okay, yeah, and as we've we just had one of these variance requests quite similar heard in one of our previous meetings. It may be a question, obviously, for the board and especially for Christine Tobin. I guess what are the stipulations we placed with that? I believe there was a hold harmless clause or something to that effect, that if there were to be an issue, that the city would be held harmless as a result of the proximity, if there would be an issue with fire or something to that effect. Christine Tobin, would you recommend that we have something similar in this request?
This is Christine Tobin. Since that last hearing, there's been some communications from the building commissioner, and he can explain that as well. But there is, he has determined that, I'll let the building commissioner say what the requirements are. And based on that, I'm not sure that we do need that same hold harmless. But, Mr. Commissioner, could you just explain where we're going with that proposed ordinance?
Thank you, Christine. This is Building Commissioner Grassi. So there's a conflict between the Residential Code of Ohio, which is adopted and what we use for our building codes and residential use here in the city of Seven Hills, and our codified ordinances. So there's a conflict in the two, and I want to read you the verbiage out of the 2019 Residential Code of Ohio. It's in the administration section, and it's under work exempt from an approval. An approval is not a permit. Don't be confused with it as a permit. Permit is what the city requires to commence the work. The approval is what's done through the Board of Building Standards and the plan review process. So basically, it's saying what work wouldn't need an approval, still need a permit, but not an approval. One-story detached accessory structures used as tool and storage sheds, playhouses, and similar uses, provided the floor area does not exceed 200 square feet. That's our conflict.
This is Christine Tobin. Thank you, Building Commissioner Grassi. So basically, if this structure is less than 200 square feet, it would not be required to be fire rated under the building code standards that Commissioner Grassi just read, and that is in conflict with our existing ordinance. But there is a movement underway to propose a change to our ordinance so it is in reads the same as the Ohio Code. So with that being said, the board here can certainly require that if you believe to be consistent. I don't think it is required in this situation, but I'll leave that up to you if you want to require it. I don't think it is. I don't think there's an issue with fire rating at this point if it's under 200 square feet, the structure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my personal thought is if you don't think the city would need that to reduce any exposure, then I would say it's not necessary.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
This is Rick. I would agree with you that the reason we added that previously was because we're trying to protect the city. If we pass a zoning variance for a structure closer to 5 feet, that ended up causing harm to an existing structure. But if that's not needed, according to our legal advice, then I'm fine with leaving it out. So I think I'm the one that pushed it last time. So.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Any other questions from any of the board members?
No. Mr. Chairman, this is Building Commissioner Grassi. Where Christine was going and where I went were two different angles. They were the same type of verbiage, but I would like to read the correct verbiage so we can get that. Christine did correct me. Ms. Tobin did correct me. So it's under in the building planning section of the 2019 Residential Code of Ohio, and this is under fire resistant rated construction. It's in section 302. So it does, in that section, it's requiring fire resistant rated construction under these certain circumstances. And then it has an exception. And the third exception in that section 302 is for detached tool sheds and storage sheds, playhouses, and similar structures exempted from approval, as I was speaking in my last verbiage I was speaking out there. Are not required to provide wall protection based on the location on the lot. So that would encompass both the building and the proximity to the lot line.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'd like to read in to the minutes 2 letters that were received by the zoning board. Again, this is Chris Brunn speaking. Again, this first one is from a Matt Saurenheimer. He states, I'm the son of Clyde and Ann Saurenheimer, who own the property at 6243 Crossview Road, adjacent to 6239 Crossview. My dad passed a year ago, and my mom is in assisted living. While they both lived there, they had no problem with the proposed shed. It sits on the garage side of their house and could not be seen from any window inside. I do not have any complaints either. Again, that was from a Matt Saurenheimer. Also received a letter from a Mr. Jack Thrain. He states, I am property owner within 500 feet of the storage shed proposed by Stan and Sharon Labuda. I am in support of the variance request for the construction of the storage shed. I've been a resident of the city of Seven Hills for 42 years. Stan and Sharon Labuda are wonderful neighbors. Not only do they maintain their property pristinely, they are frequently helping other neighbors with leaf pickup and snow removal. In my opinion, an outdoor building with possessions stored away is more aesthetically pleasing than clutter strewn outside a property. Thank you for your consideration. Again, sincerely, Jack S. Thrain.
And excuse me, Mr. Burns.
Yeah, please go ahead, Terry.
There were 2 other emails that were received this evening. One at 6:15 from a Rachel who lives at 6254. Basically, she says we have no issue with the storage shed. We did not notice the structure until it was brought to our attention via the Zoning Board of Appeals letter. And an email received from a David Schmidt at 7:30 this evening. We have lived across the street from Stan and Sharon Labuda for 4 years. They always keep their property very presentable and are excellent neighbors to have. I think they should be allowed to continue with their project. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion. David Schmidt.
Okay, great. Thank you, Terry. Okay, any other final questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick, go ahead.
Not any questions, just more of a statement. I was out at the Labuda property today, and I appreciate Stan taking the time. Hands were greasy, and he took time to walk me through his building. And I'll agree with Stan that it's very much over-engineered. It's going to be a very nice structure. I have without the fire issue, I really don't have any issues with it, especially with all the support from his neighbors. I can attest, I worked with Stan as part of in baseball. He's helped tremendously with Calvin Park, and his property is very well maintained, not only from the day, but every time I drive by it on Crossview. So, yeah, I don't have any issues with this, especially with the fire rating issue taken care of. You know, it's a very nice structure, and it's only going to add to the value of that property in that area. So that's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Okay, I think I just need to open up the meeting now for any interested parties to call in. Again, this is Chris Brunn speaking. So again, the number to call if anybody would like to make comments or have questions, 571-317-3122. Again, 571-317-3122. Access code 419-946-605. Again, 419-946-605. So I'll pause for a few moments to allow any interested parties to call in. Okay, Chris Brunn speaking again. Has anyone recently joined the call? Okay, yes, I will take that as a no. So yes, I'd like to move on just to read some factors and offer some opinions. And again, fellow board members, please feel free to offer opinions as well. So, you know, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. You know, I think it's a solidly maintained property with strong valuation right now, but I do understand the applicant's desire to add some more storage space to enhance the usability of the backyard and the pool area. So I think certainly the beneficial use of the property would be enhanced in this case. If the variance is substantial, I don't really have a concern with the amount of area that's being asked for here. Again, I think due to the positioning of some of the other structures and the applicant talked about the property falling away, being kind of, as you get deeper into that property and managing water runoff as well. So I think the applicant has done a good job with placement here. So I don't really have a concern with the amount of size required. And I don't think the applicant has really any other options to get that shed to produce the amount of usability that he desires. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties suffer detriments, I think that's clearly not the case here. Again, several neighbors or interested parties submitting letters of support for this, and I would agree. I think that the neighborhood is well maintained, with the applicant's property being one of the most pristinely maintained property around. So I think it would be certainly a net positive for the neighborhood and the applicant's property to allow the shed. What the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, safety forces, water, sewer, or garbage. Again, I don't have any concern with any of those factors here. The applicant did state that they would not hold, pool chemicals in that storage shed. So I don't really have a concern with any of the safety implications here. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? I don't believe that's really a concern here as well. Would the predicament feasibly maybe resolved through some method other than a variance? Again, I think to have the storage shed on the property, I don't see any other logical locations for that. So I don't really see any other ways for the applicant to get the shed that they want. And again, I don't have a problem with this really at all. And then whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. Again, due to the positioning of the shed behind the house, I'm not even really sure how visible it would be from the streets. Again, the neighbors have no concerns at all. So I think we'd be granting substantial justice while still maintaining the spirit of the ordinances here and zoning requirements. Again, just my thoughts, but any other zoning board members have any thoughts to share?
This is Ryan Midday. I'll just add, I think it's needed considering the size of the family and what it's going to be used for, and I think it's adds value to the property and to the neighboring properties, as we heard through some of the letters of support.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah, good
Gary
night,
Barwat. Yeah, I agree with everybody else. The property seems to be well maintained, and I think it's great that he's doing what he's doing, so I don't have any problems with it, and it appears his neighbors don't have a problem with it, so I don't see a problem.
Indeed. Okay. Thanks, Gary. Okay, then may I have a motion to vote on this request, please?
Mr. Chairman, don't we have two motions? We need to do you want to do this? No, we have one motion for the side yard variance and one motion for the house variance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe we would need two motions. Does that sound? Yeah, I believe we need to. Is that sound accurate, Christine? That we would need two motions here?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicants and property owner Stan and Sharon Labuda, 6239 Crossview Road, a 1-foot 4-inch variance to ordinance number 963.02B1 to allow the existing 8-foot by 7-foot enclosed non-fire rated storage shed with 8-foot by 7-foot open sides to remain 3 foot 6 inches from the side yard lot line as depicted on the submitted drawings.
Okay, and a second, please.
I'll second that, Gary Barwat.
Okay, yes, motion has been seconded. Motion's been made that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicants and property owners Stan and Sharon Labuda of 6239 Crossview Road a 1-foot 4-inch variance to ordinance number 96302B1 to allow the existing 8-foot by 7-foot enclosed non-fire rated storage shed with 8-foot by 7-foot open sides to remain 3 foot 6 inches from the side yard lot line as depicted on the submitted drawings. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Browitz?
Yes.
Mr. Madey?
Yes.
Draken?
Yes.
Mr. Stefanini?
Yes.
Mr. Brund?
Yes. Okay, yes, the board has voted to grant that variance. Okay, so on to our second motion. May I please have a motion?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, this is Gary Barwat.
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant, property owners Stan and Sharon Labuda, 6239 Crossview Road, a 1-foot 4-inch variance to ordinance number 963.02B1 to allow the 8-foot by 7-foot enclosed non-fire rated storage shed with 8-foot by 7-foot open sides to remain 3 foot 6 inches from the habitable dwelling as depicted on the submitted drawing.
Okay, and a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second. Rick Aiken.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Motion's been made that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicants and property owners Stan and Sharon Labuda, 6239 Crossview Road, a 1-foot 4-inch variance to ordinance number 96302B1 to allow the 8-foot by 7-foot enclosed non-fire rated storage shed with 8-foot by 7-foot open sides to remain 3 foot 6 inches from the habitable dwelling as depicted on the submitted drawings. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Browitz?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Brund?
Yes.
Mr. Madey?
Yes.
Mr. Stefanini?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the board has also voted to grant that variance. Okay, excellent. Good. Thank you, applicants. And yeah, again, wait for City Council to for the final vote.
Yes, sir. And thank you very much for everybody's time tonight.
Okay. Have a nice night. Thank you.
And Stan, this is Rick Aiken. You got lucky because we went through all the issues with this with our last close shed, so we got all those issues taken care of, and it's smooth sailing tonight. So your timing is everything sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Sometimes it works for you.
So, have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that, again, Christopher, I'm speaking. That concludes the new business portion of the meeting. I'd like to move on to our communications. So I believe our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, December 16th. And Terry, I guess, do we have any variance requests that have been filed for that meeting?
Yes, one came in today from the building department of Catherine Newman at 733 North Skyline Drive for placement of a shed.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ryan?
this is Ryan Midday. Going forward, I wonder if we need to include the verbiage non-fire rated, since we've concluded that it's not really relevant. I don't know if we need that language in our motions. I'm just bringing it up. I'm not sure.
Mr. Madej, this is Christine Tobin. The reason why we're using that language now is because that language is in our current ordinance that requires these structures to be fire rated if they're so close. But based on what the building commissioner has informed us, I believe is in the process of requesting or going to request council to reconsider a revision to that ordinance. So we won't have that language in the future.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other communications? Okay, or any old business? I guess I'm not aware of any old business to address. I think we're all up to date. And no other tabled variance requests to be here at future meetings. Good. Any other comments?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken.
Yeah, Rick.
Like if anyone's watching or anyone served our country, being Veterans Day and everything, I'd like to thank all the veterans out there for their service.
Yes, indeed. I'll second that. Thanks, Rick, for pointing that out.
Thanks, Rick. This is Ryan Midday. Do we know or have any idea how much longer or how long we'll continue our meetings through Zoom and rather than in person?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be at our discretion, and that's obviously an ever-changing situation. But I think we may have a little bit of liberty if we wanted to reconvene. I think we could consider that. I guess I'll say I'm okay with the current setup. I do think there is some value in meeting in person, but then also I recognize there's some risk in that as well. So I could go either way myself. But I guess others, I don't know. Ryan, were you just asking out of curiosity, or?
Yeah, out of curiosity. I'm getting more comfortable with the Zoom, so it's kind of growing on me. But I do like the in-person meetings. But currently, there's obviously an epidemic going on that we don't want to put anybody at risk. So it was more of just a curiosity question.
Yeah, I mean, council, I believe, is meeting in person, but certainly quite separated. And I think that's been successful. I'm not aware. I don't know. Councilman Sitsky, care to comment on, I guess, how that's worked for council meeting in person? If you're still on the line, that is. Okay.
Sorry. Councilman Sitsky, we're not meeting in person.
Oh.
We're meeting virtually and have been meeting virtually since March.
Okay.
We recently had discussion about going back into the council chambers, and then, of course, we have this huge spike in cases, and that was withdrawn. So I would tell you that I would say the sense of council at this time is that we're going to be meeting virtually for a while yet, because it just seems to be an inordinate risk to be meeting in person at this time. So,
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
If I'm not mistaken, there's still a 10-person limit on meetings. So I guess if we do want to go back in person, under the current conditions, we have more than maybe 2 applicants. We can reach that 10-person maximum pretty quickly by the governor's declaration.
Yeah.
No, that's an excellent point. Yeah. Sorry, Tom. I must have saw something differently, or for some reason I remember seeing a picture with council really spread out, but maybe that was just an old picture. So sorry about that misstatement.
Yeah, that's fine, Rick. I think we had one meeting. I can't remember the reasoning for it, but we've basically decided that it would be the better part of value to continue meeting virtually, and it's working out pretty well. I mean, sometimes it gets a little convoluted and a little complicated, but business is getting done. The city's moving forward. We've got all kinds of good things happening with, issue 41 passed. And as the mayor pointed out in the council meeting last night, issue 41 passed with more of a majority than the original rec center issue passed. So, we seem to be going in the right direction, and it doesn't seem to be adversely affecting our ability to conduct business meeting virtually. So I foresee with what's going on, and this is just my own opinion, that this is going to be like this for a while. I would venture to guess it's probably going to be like this through the first of the year at least. That's my feeling. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, and I think, when we have variances that don't involve many parties, I think this can work well. If we ever do get another variance that involves the whole community, then that may stress the ability of this platform to handle, 30 or 40 people who all want to speak. I think it could be done. This would result in a very long meeting. But yeah, I think with the variances that we're hearing, again, being just single applicant type things, I think we're in good shape. Okay, good. Any other comments or questions? Okay, yep, then may I have a motion to adjourn?
Brian, may I make a motion that we adjourn?
Okay, a second, please.
I'll second it, Gary.
Okay, motion's been made to adjourn. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mrs. Stefanini?
Yes.
Mr. Madey?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Barowitz?
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Meeting is adjourned.